it's so funny how people can impact us so much in so many ways. Sometimes it's like a lesson that you take with you for the rest of your life. Sometimes it's just like, I needed to hear that today, and now today's a better day. You, for me, were a little bit of the former, because on one of our first chats, you were talking about ADHD, and you said, there's a book out now, but you said how for you, everything changed when you looked at it as a superpower and learned how to hone that for me. And that struck such a positive chord with me that I've actually referenced it on this podcast in a few different episodes in the past. And I also have a stepson who's 10 and who's autistic. And so for me now, coming into this relationship, I've taken your words and I use them so often to remind myself that it's challenging, sure, and I have to learn a whole bunch of stuff in terms of how to deal with the situation. But this isn't a disability; it's something that, if we do it right, can be turned into something beautiful. So thank you for that. Also, how long did it take for you to get to that realization?
I never really thought like this scarlet letter, this diagnosis. When people tell you have a disorder, you think there's something wrong with you. Oh, it means it's a disorder. But when you start really looking at it, if your brain works differently than somebody else's brain, we all think differently. Our brains all process things differently. But like for me, it was learning about what is ADD, what is ADHD, what does it really mean, what happens genetically. I'm sort of a sciencey guy, even though I'm not a scientist, but I can hyper focus on things that are really, really interesting to me, and that's part of the ADD. You can do many different things, or you can hyper focus on one. And that was sort of a mission, trying to figure out, well, wait a second. If my brain is depleted of dopamine and I'm always looking for the next hit of dopamine, what can I do to navigate around that to make it an advantage rather than disadvantage? So one of the things that I started learning was I had a conversation with so many people that kept trying to tell me to focus. It's always about focus. I'm like, that's not how my brain works. Well, you can't succeed. You can't. So in researching and saying, well, what do you mean? Richard Branson had 400 companies, and I think he's a pretty successful guy, and he's a neurodivergent. And a lot of these people, look at the richest man in the world. He's proud and, pounding his chest about having Asperger's, and he's neurodivergent. So it can't be that detrimental. It has to be something that's an advantage. And I had this conversation with a person who wrote this book about the one thing. You got to focus, focus, focus. And I was like, my brain doesn't work like that. Well, what do you mean? And we started going into that. I'm like, well, I can see patterns in things that you may not see as patterns. They look like puzzle pieces that don't fit, but for me, they fit. And this is the way I live my whole life. So reflecting back, like, what is music and science and consulting? What do they have to do with each other? Nothing. They're completely separate careers. But that's not true. To me, there's a thread, and it's not a linear thread. It's not a straight line, but it's a zigzag. It's jagged. So by me taking a piece from here, a piece from here, and a piece from here, that's the way I'm building those connections. And now I can multitask effectively if I have the right, guardrails for myself. But it's always a work in progress, and you got to, kind of pick your battles. I always talk about like my ex-wife, for instance, like, why do you eat the same thing for lunch every day? Because I don't need to think about that. I can choose this or just one, and that's it. And I can use my brain power for other things that I'm doing. So it's just all in all, Chris, it's about self-awareness. We're so busy outwardly, and we don't spend enough time inwardly. And I'm not talking about like I live in LA. I'm not talking about, hokey and self-realization and meditation. All that is great, but I'm talking about really being honest with yourself. As long as we start being honest with ourselves and say, all right, I don't have some of these things, but I'm going to lean into the things I do have, not focus on the ones that I don't. And that's kind of been my philosophy.